Today in history, in 1841, President William Henry Harrison, aged 68, becomes the first president to die in office just a month after being sworn in. And honestly, that's the kind of work ethic I am looking for.
Welcome to What the Fuck History, where we discuss the wackiest and weirdest things that make us say, well, what the fuck history. I am once again your berserker boy Zachary, and you don't think I'd be done after one battle, did you? You fool! I took extra battle mushrooms for this one.
My name's Meghan, and instead of what the fuck history, I'd like to say what the fuck Australia for having the phrase, we're not here to fuck spiders.
And I'm Matt. Today I learned that the internet weighs 60 grams. I refuse to elaborate.
I was
that's
about
not
to
a lot,
ask,
is it?
and no, 60 grams is not a lot.
It's not a lot. I actually will elaborate because I thought this was pretty interesting. Apparently this calculation was done in 2007, so it could weigh more now. I didn't do any research because I'm terrible at this. But a calculation was done in 2007 to sort of calculate the amount of electrons that are needed to run the internet.
Okay.
And the combined weight of all those electrons is 60 grams.
It's probably more now that the crypto bros have gotten around.
Yeah, the internet has probably gotten a little bit fatter since. But
Yeah, so that was updated in 2007.
yeah, that was 2007.
I'm trying to find like something a little bit closer to today.
Yeah, type that into Google and have everyone on the FBI who watches your computer scratching their head going, why does she want to know how much the internet weighs?
So my searches today have consisted of recently, how much does the internet weigh? What is the fish that predicts earthquakes in Japan? And
the oarfish?
Yeah, the oarfish.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you knew that. Did you know that in Japanese, their name for it, and I'm not going to say the Japanese name because I would butcher it, but in English means the messenger of the dragon god.
Ooh,
That's
I like that.
dope,
Yeah.
especially because oarfish are gigantic.
Yeah, they're really, really scary, and we can get into our regular what the fuck lineup, but very briefly, the reason that they're called that is because in folklore, it was believed that the oarfish were sent up from the Dragon King's palaces to, predict the earthquakes. To say the Dragon King was like giving them an omen.
And I'm Matt.
The earthquake
Today I
was
learned
coming.
all that cool shit about oarfish.
Yeah, and we learned about the internet,
And the
so
internet.
like we're rolling everywhere.
We're chugging
today.
All right, everyone listening, and even those of you that aren't yet.
Okay, that's ominous.
Our strikes have been set to 0, and a game of rock, paper, scissors has been played. The order for tonight is Meghan, followed by Zach, followed by me. So pick up your bingo cards, and let's get started. Anytime you're ready, Meghan.
Yeah, okay. Ready.
Fuck.
I think she's probably tuckered out since the April Fool's
No.
episode.
Yeah, well,
she's
she's
recovering still.
I had a lot to say. No, I'm so ready. I was thinking about the oarfish while also reading about the internet and how much it weighs.
We're all over the place. All right,
I am
wait a
so
second.
sorry to have distracted you that poorly.
Yeah, I was like, wow, some wires are really getting crossed because I was like, how much does an oarfish weigh? And we can't go there.
I absolutely love that journey for you, though.
Yeah, thank you. I am confused now. Anyway, my story
You should
is,
tell us
do you
what
want to
your
hear
notes- Yeah, tell us
the
what
title? Okay. We wear pink, I mean straw hats on Wednesdays.
Okay.
A little Mean
It's-
Girls
yeah.
reference.
It's a Mean
little-
Girls
little-
reference, which is a movie I have never been able to finish.
You've never
Oh.
finished to Mean Girls? Oh, wait, that's a different thing.
I've never actually finished Mean Girls.
I love you, Danny DeVito!
I didn't.
I can't believe it, Zach.
So I've never finished Mean Girls because when I watch it sober, I just don't find it funny enough to finish.
That's so funny, though.
And when I watch it unsober because I'm playing the Mean Girls drinking game, I black out before I can
Unsober.
finish it.
Unsober. It doesn't say
Unsober,
drunk.
that's a word, right?
Well, I've only ever finished in Mean Girls, so
Oh, that was a little sexy. Anyway, let's jump into my story, which is pretty wholesome.
it would be great if we could.
Yeah, thank you. Now, as we all know, men have historically been more into fashion than women.
Yes, absolutely. Have you seen Harry Styles?
Dude, I'm not even being facetious. Like, I don't want to hear any arguments
No.
on this. Like,
Of course not.
high heels for men.
What's that?
High heels were made for men.
Yeah.
Heels were made for men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
To
High heels were made
accentuate
for
the
men.
legs.
Yep, and to make them a little bit taller. And the wig market, decidedly masculine for a long time.
It was indeed.
Look at judges, so many judges.
So many judges
And-
today still wear wigs.
And
So many
Frenchmen.
judges today. And Frenchmen.
Judges
and
and
I think
Frenchmen,
the
the corner of
entirety
the wig
of-
market.
Oh, God. And Parliament? British Parliament?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they still wear wigs. Anyway,
Yeah.
so there was also a time when men were very concerned about hats, exceedingly so. So concerned, in fact, that they rioted over them. Now, I'm sure you're saying, Meghan, men would never do something.
Megan,
so
that's not what I'm
frivolous.
saying. All I can think in my
Okay.
brain is the stupid trilby, "Milady," and
Milady.
I fucking
Yeah.
hate it.
The other thing that I was thinking was really just about oarfish stuff. So
Oh yeah, he's still thinking about
Okay.
that. Man, maybe I'll change my story tonight. I'll expound more on the oarfish. No. So we're gonna keep going in this vein. So I know
God.
that you're not thinking that men would never do something so frivolous.
no, men of class would never, walk in the streets with tiki torches over something so stupid as a straw hat.
Men
No.
of stature.
I think
So-
Zach finished to Mean Girls.
No.
Finally.
No.
It's been so long. It's been such a long amount of foreplay. Anyway, men they had wars and
I was going to say
women
something
did-
else, but it's probably best if I
no,
Been edging
it's
to
fine
Mean
because
Girls for so long.
I was
This is
I was just
awful.
gonna say that sounded dusty, and I was gonna ask Zach if he was okay.
Clearly not.
All right, we've eaten up too much of
God.
Megan's time. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
it's
usually
fine.
so good at being a dad. Let's get back on track.
I know you're so good at it, but not tonight.
No, not tonight.
Yeah.
But now.
So men had really important things like wars and women to take care of, and like surely hats were like pretty low on the totem pole for their concern.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where I'm gonna say that of course they fought a war over
Over straw hats.
straw hats.
I mean, I think that's killing two birds with one stone, so I applaud it.
Which birds? Which
What-
birds are they killing?
yeah, which birds?
All of them.
Which birds? Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
that's
need
fair. They were
specific
just-
examples because you did
No,
just very firmly say, I think they're killing two birds with one stone, and I need to know which specific birds they're killing.
The swallows and the grackles.
Oh,
Oh,
fair enough.
Thank God. I like grackles. but
Grackles are
anyway.
terrible. They deserve to
I
die.
love grackles. No, they're good.
They're an
good
invasive
boys.
species.
Yeah, but the grackles, they grackle everywhere. So one time, I'm getting really off
ladies and
track,
gentlemen,
but-
welcome to ADHD, the podcast, with our special guest, Megan.
When I went to Austin, my friend was
No,
like,
you gotta tell your
was
story,
like-
bud.
you gotta see the grackles, and I spent the whole time following the grackles with my hands outstretched, hoping that they would accept me. And
I am your new
I like
grackle
made a
queen.
noise too. Yeah, I was like grackle, grackle.
Guys, we promise we're gonna get to some history in a second, but this is just so
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah, so to recap,
war
I'm
was
talking about
fought
the
over straw hats.
Yeah, straw hats. So our story begins in the 19th century, as most good stories do.
Yep.
Straw hats had appeared and were worn as a summertime accoutrement to sporting events such as boating.
Yes,
It
everybody
was
knows the summer event of boating.
Boating, rich people do at least.
Yeah.
It was not considered good form, though, to wear these hats in the cities because they were considered informal vacation wear.
Much like you're not supposed to wear white after Labor Day.
Are you telling me I
Yeah,
can't bust out my Hawaiian shirts 24/7?
I know a
I'm
guy that
saying that
would.
it's
I used to go
anarchy
to
now.
I used to go to fancy events for work. Well, I mean, I still kind of do, but there was a gentleman that would show up in like a Hawaiian shirt to a fancy event, and I would point at him and look at my coworkers and be like, "If he can do it, why can't I?"
I mean, it's true.
Anyways,
It's true. Wear whatever you want, really. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they were considered informal vacation wear, but by the early 20th century, straw hats were more accepted in North American cities in the height of summer. However, there was an unwritten rule that one was not supposed to wear a straw hat past September 15th, which was also known as Felt Hat Day.
oh my God,
We have
Day
different
of the
days for
felted
hats.
hat.
Yeah, the day of the felted hat. It's kind of like daylight savings time, except it's like daylight hatting time. I don't.
You tried.
I didn't have
You
something
really tried.
clever
Hat
for
light
that.
saving
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
Hat
light
light savings
savings
time.
There you go.
Yeah, that one's really good. I'll have it known that this day was completely arbitrary. Like there was no hat god
Yeah.
that was deeming like September 15th the day of felt hats.
No hat god to send earthquakes. Sorry, or fish
yeah.
again. Really.
Yeah,
sorry.
or fish again.
Fuck.
Whoops. So originally the date was September 1st until it was shifted back for literally no reason. Like I tried to find a reason and there wasn't.
That was gonna be my
one.
next question: is did they have a reason to shift to the date?
No,
Of
they
course
just
not.
like didn't have a reason. So if you were caught wearing a straw hat after the date, it was socially acceptable for like your friends.
To beat you to death in the streets?
Well, not to beat you to death, but to like knock your hat off your head and like stomp it.
Ah, ha, ha.
You know, good friend things.
Yes,
Yeah, I
'cause
mean,
that's what
I-
friends do.
I typically,
Yeah, that's what friends do,
I
Zach.
make a habit of knocking my friend's hat off and then stepping on it.
It wasn't acceptable for strangers to do this, but like if you were like colleagues at work or like just in general like knew the person, you could go over and be like knock their hat on the ground and be like, haha, what a good joke, we're men.
This isn't toxic at all. Ha ha.
This isn't haha.
Megan has such contempt for the men in this story.
I just
Haha, I knocked your hat off, we're men.
haha. It's so fun. I can't wait until therapy's a thing and we still don't go, right, chaps? Anyway, so if any man was seen wearing a straw hat after this date, they were also subjected to ridicule. And it was a tradition for like teenagers to also knock the hats off of the wearer's head and stomp on them because so like adult strangers couldn't do it, but like
but teenagers could. And then your
Yeah.
neighborhood has to wonder, are they your colleagues or are they just precocious teens?
well, it's true because like this is the earliest 20th century, right? And like child labor laws, I guess, just don't exist. Yet they still don't, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Amazon.
Ask Nestle about that.
Yeah. Do we have
Do we have a bingo card about...
ridicule conglomerates shady work
I
practice?
don't think
laws?
we do, but we did just mention Jeffrey Bezos, so...
Yeah, that's true. We did. So the tradition of like knocking people's hats off and stopping them became so entrenched that newspapers would start warning men of the upcoming date, reminding them to switch over to felt or silk hats. Hat bashing, as it was called, led to a number of incidents when the police had to intervene to stop the teenagers. But also, like, let's take a moment here to see how much like the world just like caters to men. Like, hey guys, remember, change your hats. We came up with a rule and don't want your precious feelings to like be hurt by that rule.
Not only that, but it's a completely arbitrary rule that was made entirely by society and not by any governing body whatsoever.
Yeah, they were just like, let's make life a little bit more difficult for ourselves.
What's that? A straw hat after felt hat day?
Oh, you rube!
You rube! We're not at the boat. So it wasn't until September 13th, 1922, that the issue of the straw hats really got out of hand and the riots began.
Ooh.
The straw hat riots.
The straw hat riots. We went from 0 to 100 really fast.
We really did.
So it was on this date that a group of youths...
Youths or precocious teens knocking off hats?
Youths. They're one and the same, really, in this story.
Tomato,
they decided
tomato.
to get an early... Tomato. These pictures are the same. It's the same picture. It's the same picture. So these youths decided to get an early jump on the hat bashing tradition. The group began hat bashing in Lower Manhattan, taking the hats off of factory workers and destroying them. And this evolved into a full-out brawl when they tried to do the same thing on dock workers.
Oh.
And the dock workers were like...
The dock workers were obviously upset because they are at the boats.
Yeah.
They are at the boats. They're always at the boats.
They're always at the boats.
Also, just don't fuck with the dock workers. Those are the people that haul a bunch of cargo and could strangle you with a rope. I'm just saying, don't fuck with the dock workers.
Yeah, I picture Zach as a dock worker a lot of the time.
That makes me...
even though he's not.
That's a great compliment.
That only makes me wonder what you picture me as.
I don't know. It's more of a vibe that Zach gives off.
Zach does give off a very dock worker vibe.
Yeah, it's like dock worker chic.
If you've ever met Zach in person, you would know.
You would get it.
Immediately. He's a dock worker.
Off to get my beanie cap and knit sweater.
Well, like, he's a dock worker, but also, for some reason, like, a speakeasy owner. There's, like, no in-between.
No, there's multiple in-betweens. Zach just hits them all perfectly.
But
that doesn't answer the question of what I am. But we can get to that later.
I haven't thought about it, immediately off the top of my head.
I know you guys were painting me a great compliment, but I'm going to ruin it. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am.
I'm just the taint of human beings. I'm just the space between...
Stop.
No. I need you to accept this strike that I'm giving you.
I accept it fully.
Okay.
I was about to give him one, too. I was just like, that's
he can take one from both of us.
No, that's not how that
That's
works.
not
how that works.
Fine.
One is enough.
I love that we haven't defined the rules of strikes at all. We just make them up arbitrarily as we go.
I am also
kind
the
of
only
like
one who's ever struck out, so...
You have struck out, yeah.
Yeah, dude, he's the only one who's struck out. So the dock workers, understandably, were like, fuck you, and they fought back.
Yeah.
The brawl soon stopped traffic on Manhattan Bridge and eventually was broken up by the police and led to some arrests, but this wasn't the end of it. The fight continued and escalated throughout the evening, and gangs of teens prowled the streets with weapons looking for pedestrians wearing straw hats and beat those who resisted.
Wow.
This turned into a Clockwork Orange very quickly.
I know. Like, they took a fun thing, whatever gets you off, and they took it too far, right?
Just a little bit.
Just a little. Just a
Only
smidge.
a smidge.
So, several people were arrested, even though some off-duty officers were themselves caught up in the brawl when rioters attempted to take their hats, which I will approve of. Old-timey police are still police. And in the aftermath of what became known as the Straw Hat Riots, many of the offenders opted to pay fines instead of serving jail time. The longest sentence that was served was 3 days, and he was sentenced by the magistrate Peter A. Hatting, which I thought was pretty...
Ironic.
Yeah. That's really good. So, though the hat smashing of 1922 was the worst of it, the tradition continued for some years after, with one man being murdered in 1924. I know. Like, they're really taking it
Bless you.
to a level.
Sorry,
Bless
thanks.
And in 1925 also saw some arrests. The activity
Just
died
some.
out once yeah, just some. Hat smashing like really died out with the disappearance of like the tradition of the yearly like hat switch. No one wanted to wear a straw hat in the 1930s, probably because you could get murdered for it.
Yeah.
And it really goes to show you that like Regina George was right though.
Yeah.
There are consequences for not wearing pink or having a uniform on Wednesdays. You could be murdered.
You could be.
Murdered.
You could be
because of
murdered.
hats.
You could be arrested.
You could be straw hat murdered.
That's
You could be
fucking
straw
wild.
hat murdered. I know. I liked this story because it started out really nice and then it just shows like a horrible escalation.
Yeah, like that's what it came down to. Like, it's not a great joke to knock someone's hat off. It's not really polite, but like this is the 1920s. People do dumb things.
Like
I
It's just
did
like-
not moiter him.
Yeah, like
did not
the escalation
murder.
from it's a fun joke where you knock some hats off to I'm gonna stab you for wearing a straw hat is like okay.
I'm gonna stab you for wearing this thing. Yeah, I think like the tradition, like knocking someone's hat off, right, is like not really great. But if you're expecting it, right, and it's this thing that like all of society participates in on this one day, I'd be willing to give it a pass. But the
Yeah.
very quick escalation of it into full out riots,
That's a bit much.
I think like these teenagers maybe needed to just like get laid or something.
There's
Something
there's
else
a
to
reason
do.
why My Chemical Romance wrote a song in which the chorus is "Teenagers scare the living shit out of me."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a scary time, and I know that we're kind of off topic, but like like as a young adult librarian, right? Like I deal with older teens.
Who often knock
And I-
people's hats off and kill them.
No, they don't. But the potential is always there. It's the threat, if you will. But like, it's a hard time in your life
Yeah.
where like people are looking at you and saying you're not a kid anymore, but you kind of also are.
You're an adult now,
and
but
you
you're
should-
also not.
Yeah, like there's a lot of mixed
We're
messages.
gonna talk
and
to you
also,
like you're an adult and treat you like
Yeah.
you're a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like when I hear stories from history or like today where teenagers lash out, I'm always like, well, we don't like as a society know how to like treat teenagers.
No.
We don't understand them at all. And I know that got really philosophical, but like I do think about this quite a lot
on a
as
daily
part
basis.
of my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, well, how do I like engage
Yeah.
with them as someone who's not a teenager, who is an adult,
But deals with teenagers.
without like making them feel like babies.
Well,
Yeah.
the bad news is you can't. So
Yeah.
we should probably go into Zach's story.
I was gonna say, while we ponder this philosophical question
we
that
ponder
Megan has given
this.
us, I'm gonna steal the microphone and just say,
Please.
guess who's back? Back again. Zach is back,
is it?
so tell a friend.
I only have you
okay.
two.
Well,
Did he?
I'm just kidding.
jeez, now you stole all of the momentum out of my terrible Slim Shady remix.
My favorite thing is noticing that there is wind in Zach's sails and ripping it away.
I'm just gonna power on through, because that's right, I'm back. I never left, but I did take a sabbatical from Viking stories, but oh boy, I cannot get enough. So, we're going to jump back into the frenzy. We're going to talk about the Varangian Guard. And way back in the Viking Age, around 800 CE, for those of you not in the know, CE is the same as AD, but I will not give the Christians the satisfaction of using their savior as a historical point.
The Christ era?
No, the Common Era.
Do you ever
Anywho.
wonder if ancient Romans look at the BC and go, who's Christ?
Yeah.
Who's Christ? Who is that?
So, I use BCE before the Common Era and CE, the Common Era, because that does not have a religious subtext.
That's
Fair enough.
Anywho, in 800 CE, a group of down-on-their-luck Nordic fight boys start their raids on English shores. Already they're the underdogs, therefore we must root for them. Some of the fight boys end up settling in Europe and become the Rus. Others move to the rivers east and try to steal all the Arabic silver that they can.
That sounds like what I do on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, if there were places to steal a lot of gold and silver, I'd be like, I'll take my chances.
Yeah, that's a normal Tuesday night. Pop some popcorn, get together with the boys, crack a couple cold ones, pillage and steal
I'll have
money.
it be known though, I don't want guns. I will not be doing it if there are guns. I will only be accepting it if there are
Like big bladed weapons.
Yeah, I only want big bladed weapons.
I mean, I do own a sword now, so yes, I'm on board with you.
Okay, good.
So, we fast forward to around 978 CE, and the sons of Prince, I'm going to butcher this, but we're going to try it anyway, Svatoslav.
Oh,
Svatoslav.
Steve, help.
Steve, help me!
Steve!
Yes, so the sons of Prince Svatoslav I end up getting all pissy with each other, as brothers are wont to do, and one of these sons, Vladimir the First, calls up, about 6,000 warriors from Sweden to aid him in this familial dispute.
Is that all?
Just 6,000?
Just 6,000. But the 6,000 Swedish warriors begins the groundwork for our Fantastic Fight Boys. So,
Fight Club.
Is the Fantastic Fight Boys the sequel to the Fantastic Four that we've all been waiting for?
I mean, it should be. Please. The Fantastic Fight Boys is the movie that I want next. It's actually, if we can get, what's his name? The guy who does all the... Wes Anderson. It's like Fantastic Mr. Fox, but more bloody.
Yeah.
Puppets included, and George Clooney's sultry voice.
And George Clooney's sultry voice.
So, yes, a little less than a decade after Prince Vladimir ends up, calling these 6,000 warriors up, Basil II of the Byzantine Empire calls up old Vlad on the then time equivalent of the telephone and says, "Hey, buddy, can I borrow some of your folks with a dispute I'm dealing with?" Because at the time, two different people were trying to usurp the throne simultaneously, which, is not really a good thing.
No, it's honestly too many.
Yeah, I mean, one usurper, that's a problem. Two usurpers, that's a whole shit show.
You got 3 usurpers in there, you might as well just bomb it and start over.
Get fucked.
Honestly, though, maybe it's better, and bear with me on this hot take, right? If you have one usurper, you have like a unified force, right? Like they're gaining all of the opposing support to your throne, and it's a concentrated effort. You have 2 usurpers, you're splitting the people's attention, much like the Green Rainbow Party does in American elections and the Independent Party.
Yes, but then you're also fighting 2 different wars on 2 different fronts.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's the hard part. But Vladimir is a nice guy, and he says, sure, go ahead and take some guys and send them to... And he sends those warriors to Byzantine. And, which is also to note, this deal was made all the sweeter for Vlad by the offer of the hand of Basil's sister in marriage. There was a catch, which was that Vladimir had to be willing to convert to Christianity, to which Vlad says, sure, I like getting laid, and I also want to modernize my beliefs. So,
I love being laid.
Yeah, he likes getting laid, and he wants to modernize his beliefs, and he ended up not choosing Islam as his modernized belief, because Islam doesn't let you drink.
Well, that's a good enough reason for him.
That was his reason. That is 100% factually his reasoning. Allegedly, he was quoted saying, "Drinking is the joy of the Rus. We cannot exist without it."
He was just like, I love everything else. Can we budge on this rule? And they're like, no, that's pretty important to us. And he's like, well, I'm gonna have to go with another make and model.
And,
That's,
and everything I know about Russia today, which is where the Rus get their roots, they still like drinking quite a bit, so...
I'd say they do.
Yeah. Personally, I am saying boo to the Christianity, but yay on the drinking, so you win some, you lose some.
Mm-hmm. Listen, you can't have it all, you know?
Yes. So Vlad converts to Christianity and sends his 6,000 Norse warriors to Constantinople. Been a long time gone, Constantinople. Why did Constantinople get the works? Well, that's nobody's business but the Turks.
I love that he just weaves music in.
I know. I can't do that.
But
I would have to do some.
But he says it so that we can't get in trouble.
Exactly. It's almost like cake. I just do it in a monotone.
He also says it too, and it takes me a minute to be like, oh, that's a song.
I literally got it the second that he got to the second word.
Well, you know what? We can't all be music and lyric savants, okay?
Yes.
I'm over here. I'm dumb. All right.
You're just not musically inclined. That's okay.
Don't talk about my friend like that.
I appreciate it. But I am stupid when it comes to music.
No, you're just not quick on the draw.
That's okay.
Zach and I are the Wild West boys of music out here.
I'm just out here slinging sheet music. Anywho.
You definitely are. Yeah, please go on.
So in 1988, the force that would later be known as the Vergarian Guard crept up under the cover of dark and quickly dispatched the enemies of Basel. And it was said that they fought until they were ankle deep in blood and gore, and they cheerfully hacked their enemies to pieces.
Cheerfully?
This sounds pretty on par for Norse warriors, yes, and very cheerfully. Big grins as they just decided to go ham.
Big grins.
All smiles as the viscera flew through the air.
Lightly bathed.
Much more than lightly bathed. They were heavily bathed in the gore of their enemies.
Well, yeah,
I was gonna say in
ankles.
General, they were catered about their hygiene.
Oh
yeah.
So that's why I said lightly.
That's
bathed.
a lot of why the English refused to, or the English didn't want them around,
because they were stealing all their women.
They bathed more often than English men did.
Yeah, like Zach said, they
were stealing all the ladies.
I guess.
There's a tip for you, fellas. If you want to get with the ladies, don't be disgusting.
Yeah, don't have a smelly ball sack. That's all. I said it.
Wow. This is how we get the Manscaped promotion.
Yeah. Clean your balls.
That's what I'm saying.
Clean your balls.
Clean
and
the other parts of you, too.
Yeah, that's true. Clean all of you, not just your balls. So Basil squashes the uprisings, and he decides to keep these warriors around with the permission of Vladimir, and he officially names them the Vergarian Guard, which is thought to come from the Old Norse var, which loosely translated to Men of the Pledge. And
Men of the Pledge.
Men of the Pledge. And pledged these men were as they became Basil's personal bodyguards, his police, his jailers, and accompanied the emperor to war. They were his personal fight boys.
When you said his jailers, I was like, wait, they put him in jail? And then I realized it was just a job that they had. I was like, wait.
They were the cops and the prison guards.
They were the cops and the robbers.
Yeah. No, not quite. Well, I guess if you're going to war, you do a little pillaging. So yeah, they were cops and robbers.
Some light pillaging.
But they were an absolute insane bunch who were very good at what they did. What they did happened to be a lot of killing, but nonetheless, they were very good at it. One Arab trader by the name of Ahmad ibn Fadlan, I thought I was going to butcher that. It wasn't as bad as I thought. Anyway.
You did okay there.
Ahmad said that they were, quote, as tall as palm trees, fair and reddish. They wear neither tunics nor kaftans. Every man wears a cloak with which he covers half of his body so that one arm is uncovered. They carry axes, swords, daggers, and always have them to hand. I don't know about
Oh.
you, but I personally like the cut of these fellows' jib.
Yeah, well, they certainly were cutting other fellas' jibs.
They were
you know?
cutting other fellas lots of things.
Yeah, dude, they were the guard.
Yeah, they were the guard. And these men went down in history as some of the most fearsome warriors ever to be on the battlefield, and even had many figures coming out of the guard, and that included Harold Hardrada, where
Hey, I've heard of him.
exactly where he actually assumed so much wealth in the Vagrarian Guard that he amassed so much wealth in 9 years that after his time in the Guard, he returned to Norway and becomes King of Norway.
King of Norway. Good for him.
Very good for him. The Guard was eventually disbanded and fell into ruin after William the Conqueror drives all of the Anglo-Saxons out of England in 1066. The huge influx of Anglo-Saxons coming to Constantinople trying to flee England ends up bringing a lot of green Anglo-Saxon recruits to the Guard, and after they lose the Fourth Crusade in 1204, the Guard kind of just becomes more of an honor guard, watching prisoners in palaces, until 1453, where the Byzantine Empire falls to the Ottoman Sultanate. However, sad that the Byzantine Empire falls.
The guard.
And the Guard falls. But their legacy may have faded in common view, but you can still see their traces, including graffiti of one warrior's name carved into the Hagia Sophia while he was bored on watch duty.
His
Oh my
name
god, can you?
is Jimmy Two Shoes.
Jimmy Two Shoes! But I will also say, I think personally, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this story, is not only is it a great Viking story, but you mentioned earlier, Matt, that their penchant for drinking and the connection to Russia.
Yeah.
But the connection is less Russian than it is somewhere else, because most of these people, including Vladimir I, they were Rus, but do you know where they were settled?
No.
They
Russia?
were settled in Kiev. That's
Ooh.
right. The legacy of the Vagrarian Guard still lives on today a little bit in my heart and in my beliefs. Because fuck Russia.
In the
That's all.
Damn, dude.
Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Mic
Mic
drop.
drop.
Mic drop.
So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit dense, but that is the tale of
No,
the Vagrarian Guard and how they're still fucking awesome, even though they're
Yeah.
technically disbanded.
I feel like their spirit has really lived on in modern day Ukrainians based on the stories that you hear about, like, just random Ukrainian citizenry being like, yeah, we just got together with the local church and we started making Molotovs.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my grandmother. She's 92. She made a Molotov
She's
yesterday.
92.
She makes the best Molotov.
You ever had my
Yeah.
grandmother's Molotovs?
Exactly.
They're not for you. They're only for the Russians.
Look, these Molotovs, you can't have any, but I swear, they're to die for.
They're to die for.
I don't know why I'm doing some, like, terrible, almost New York Boston accent.
Because I said Jimmy Two Shoes earlier.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right,
just-
you're
it's
right, you're
there.
right.
Zach, the graffiti, what's the guy's name?
I never got the guy's name. I'm gonna go with Jimmy Two Shoes, but basically because
It's not Jimmy Two Shoes.
it's written out in, like, runic language. So
okay.
it's basically this guy. I didn't get the name. I'm pretty sure I could find it if I really dug deep. But it was
No, that's
just
fine.
some
I was just-
random guy who was on guard duty at the Hagia Sophia and was like, I'm bored. Let me write my name. Like, it's one of, the earliest, earliest living relics of graffiti, which was commonplace
What year
even back
was it?
then.
That they...
So that would have been during the beginning of the Vagrarian Guard, which
Oh, okay.
was
The very beginning of it.
in 988. So, like, probably like 988,
Okay.
1000 CE was when that was done.
I got it. Okay, yeah, because, like, when you're like, oh, it's some of the earliest, I was like, yeah, like in Pompeii, how they found...
This guy took a
like
shit here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this guy like fucked your mom.
I made water in this street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good story though.
I do want to apologize briefly to both Zach and our listeners because I did go catatonic halfway there somewhere.
That's
in
all
there.
good. That's all good.
Just-
As I had a lot of information to get through. It's
Every
feel
so
like-
often it happens where like I lose part of the thread, like something catches my attention off screen. I lose part of what we're doing, and then I come back and I can't catch up.
Matt, we had the ADHD at the beginning where we can't stay on topic. Then we had the ADHD where we zone out. We just get the full spectrum tonight.
We just got it. We got it all tonight.
I feel like that should be part of the bingo card too, where it's like Matt loses thread.
Matt loses the thread and comes back and apologizes.
But speaking of Matt, I want to hear your
please.
Stories.
Story.
Tell me your sexy story.
I say
sexy
stories
stories.
because I do have two.
Okay.
And they're about the same guy, so like it's fine. Don't at me for like trying to cut off a bigger chunk of the podcast than is necessary for a man my size. But I will be going back for seconds today. But I'm talking about a topic I've spoken about before, but when I talked about this before, I did say that I would revisit it. For those of you at home, hoping that this is another story about World War II so that you can check it off the bingo card, I hate to disappoint.
So I will say, Matt, at least you're better than me, who keeps teasing that I'm going to go back to things and has yet
And then
to
just
do it.
forgets, like a squirrel burying nuts in winter.
All my
never
nuts are
keep false
somewhere.
promises.
That's why trees keep springing up, because the squirrels are like, yeah, I'll come back for this. So this story is about Frederick II, who is an amateur scientist and, as it turns out, the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire.
The HRE.
Yeah!
As it turns out.
As it turns out, in case you forgot. Last time I told you guys a story about how old Freddy wanted to understand Adamic language, as he called it, and how Adam and Eve learned how to talk in the Garden of Eden. But today, I'm going a completely different direction and telling you about the experiments he performed on prisoners.
Lovely.
Yeah, not babies this time.
Definitely
guys.
not babies this time, guys.
Did they deserve it? Probably not. Is
Who
it
knows?
still interesting? We'll see.
It's
We'll
not.
see what happens.
It's on What the Fuck History for a reason. So I mentioned that most of Fred's experiments were recorded by a monk, but I may have failed to mention the monk's name in the last podcast that I mentioned Freddy on. So
Is
I
he
did.
Jimmy Two Shoes? The
It
monk?
is Jimmy Two Shoes the monk. Hey, I'm walking here.
Hey!
Actually, his name is Salimbene the Atom, which I'm pretty sure translates to Jimmy Two Shoes.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you'll find on babynames.com the graph that shows baby name usage.
Yeah, Jimmy Two
Jimmy
Shoes
Two
right up
Shoes,
there.
Big spike.
I can't wait to make Jimmy Two Shoes like a throwaway character in a D&D campaign where you guys just walk down an alley and it's like, hey, I'm walking here. Someone stops and it's like, who are you? I'm Jimmy Two Shoes.
Jimmy Two Shoes.
Oh, fuck.
Two
I'm missing a shoe. And then you're just on a quest to find Jimmy Two Shoes' second shoe. Anyways, so his name is Salimbene the Atom. That could also be wrong, but I am sure that Steve will tell me how I'm supposed to say that name. However, to the detriment of my own story here, I will say that Frederick II's child experiment was so out there that the experiments that I'm going to mention here have not been documented to the same degree as the child experiment, wherein he killed 5 orphans for his own scientific pursuits.
Yeah, I think after you
Did he
murder
not
a
kill his-
handful of babies, the monk who's doing all of your scribing is kind of a luster,
He's like, I
luster
don't
for
think
it.
I want to keep doing this.
Did he not kill as many prisoners? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean,
Is
he
that
probably
why?
killed a ton, but he didn't...
Good amount.
a good amount of prisoners. So the first experiment that I'm going to mention to you guys is this. Frederick II was clearly a very spiritual man, and he wanted to understand the essence of humanity, and decided the best way to do that was to capture a human soul.
Okay.
You
I had a
know,
lot of free time.
there are probably ways to do that. You know, in this day and age, you can simply call the Ghostbusters, and they'll come to your house, and they'll just grab
That's true.
the soul right out of the air.
I was going to
Or
dispute
you
you,
can
but
just-
then you brought the Ghostbusters, and I can't argue with you anymore.
Yeah.
Or they'll just have, what's that guy, Slimo? Or
Slimer?
Yeah.
Slimer.
Blah,
Blah, blah, blah, blah, blah. He's just gonna eat.
You may not want a human soul, but you got one forever.
You know what I really don't understand about that is, like, what was the justification for Slimer? Was he like a gluttonous human, or was he like some extraterrestrial ghost?
So here's
We'll
the
never
thing.
know.
We can't get into Slimer and then still have time for your story. There's so much to say about Slimer.
I'm okay. I'll need a different podcast for that.
Yeah, you'll need a different podcast for my take on Slimer.
So the way Frederick II decided to try and capture the human soul, or at least see the human soul, is he took a prisoner and he put him in an empty cask.
Okay, not a lot of room in a cask, but
For
sure.
those of you that don't know what a cask is, it is a barrel where wine is typically kept. I don't know why I pronounced wine as if it was the word
Wine.
white, but or whip.
Or wheat.
Or wheat, indeed. Anyways,
we're just saying W.
we're just putting it in there, whether you want us to or not.
Wait, what would it be? What the?
What the fuck?
No.
Anyways, I tell you what. Fuck, we gotta keep going.
please.
He put a prisoner in an empty cask, typically reserved for wine, did not feed or give him any drinks, and so he let the man starve to death in his own piss and shit. But just before the man expired, he cut a hole in the cask. And it's, important to note that the gentleman probably could breathe to some degree because casks were not soups airtight. But he cut a hole in the cask and hoped that by cutting this hole, he would be able to see the man's soul escape the cask.
What, like it was a glow-in-the-dark t-shirt?
Yeah.
Like, if I keep it dark, I'll be able to see...
He was like, if
I'll be
you
able
know
to
what,
see the
if I just
unicorn.
watch this hole, as soon as this man takes his last breath, I'll be able to see his soul escape his body.
How'd that work
You
for
know
him?
what?
It did not. I'll let you know that it did take it did not take 5 children dying for him to realize that this was not the way to capture a soul.
What was he gonna do with it?
I think he just wanted to see it to prove that it existed.
I think
And
what
then,
any sane
and then
person
he
would...
probably would have found a way to capture /
He
enslave
would
a
have been
soul.
like all of us at the butterfly place when we brought home like a caterpillar and then it grew into a butterfly and then we had to release it.
Yeah. Except
I think he would have done what any sane person would have done with like a spare soul lying around.
Yeah.
And that is put it into some arcane core to power a giant mech suit and take over the world.
No, that's true. I would do that.
I like the appropriate amount of silence that was there.
Well, I had to let it sink in.
So, for obvious reasons, he was unable to see a man's essence leave his mortal coil, and Frederick got to add this to his tally of failed experiments.
Of
So,
war crimes.
as of now, it's science 2, Frederick 0.
I mean, I guess science is like a lot of failure, right?
Science
It's like
is a
plain-
ton of failure,
it's
usually
like-
at innocent humans' expense.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
So the second experiment that I want to mention is one that has to do with human digestion.
Oh.
Oh God, this sounds even worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's human digestion, so
That's worse. Everything that has to do with human digestion is bad. It's gross.
We are disgusting meat puppets.
We are.
I know.
Yeah. No. Okay. So it's probably gonna be bad. I've done the research. It is bad, but like I'm gonna talk about it anyways. So Frederick gets 2 prisoners, and he feeds them both a nice dinner. He invites these guys to the White House, orders some McDonald's because, hey, they're worth it. So he serves these guys a nice dinner, and then he lets them eat their dinner. He sends one of them back to his room to relax and sleep off the meal, and then he sends the other one hunting.
Oh,
I'm suspicious.
It is pretty sus.
I'm sus, super sus.
Does anyone want to take a guess at like which direction this goes next?
He cuts open their stomachs and examines them?
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, he does that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
So, as I mentioned, it is an experiment in digestion, and so to get there from that, when the gentleman comes back from hunting, he has both prisoners killed and disemboweled. So that he
saw that coming from a mile away.
They probably didn't. So that he can then study their intestines to see which of the 2 prisoners digested their meal more.
Old-timey Pepto-Bismol is either sit around or go hunting. Which one makes you shit better?
Yeah. Which one do you want? Do you have a preference?
Again, here's the issue. After you've killed 5 children, your monk friend is sort of just like, yeah, he added 2 more to the body tally. He was trying to figure out whether a sedentary lifestyle or an active lifestyle makes you shit better. So there's no results that I could find. I probably could do like a much deeper dive than I was prepared to do for this.
But you can only take so much shit.
Yeah, you really can. But he did legitimately just kill these people, these 2 prisoners, to, I guess, figure out whether or not a sedentary lifestyle is more conducive to digesting your meal than going directly to... This is kind of like the old school, you shouldn't swim after you eat because you'll get disemboweled by Frederick II.
If a king offers you a meal and says you only have to do him a small favor after, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just a small favor.
I just need your intestines.
I just need to see what's going on the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, truly, he was an amateur scientist, and at this point, he just keeps getting beat by science. And I can only imagine that at the end of each of these experiments where he doesn't get the conclusive evidence he wants, he just stares at the heavens, shaking his fist, going, "Damn you, science."
He's like, who can I disembowel next?
Who can I murder in the name of science next?
Yeah.
Who's next?
Well, I mean, when you really think about it, science is just like murdering people until you figure out that's the thing that's killing them. That's kind of like the whole of human history. Not specifically murder, but I'm talking about like science in general. Like the very first, or one of the very first stories that we ever did with the fucking radium girls, where it's like, yeah, we're just going to keep doing things the way that we're doing them because...
Until we know better.
They only occasionally die where their face melts off.
But like, that's not, to me, that's like corporate like negligence. I guess what I was more thinking about is like all of those psychology experiments you hear about in the 50s and the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Where we get a lot of like good information from it,
but they were definitely
hard...
violations of human rights.
Yeah, we're like, we're thankful for the information, but these are all no longer allowed to be done.
I'm tempted,
like we have rules.
I'm tempted to do a few psych based episodes, but I'm almost certain that anyone who has done Psych 101 will have heard all of them. So
Yeah.
I might have to
think
dig
it's-
for the more interesting ones.
I think it's like good to do.
Like
As
the,
long as we don't talk about the prison experiment, we don't
the
give
prison
a shit.
experiment was so
Yes.
flawed in so many ways.
Yeah.
I could go on for hours and hours. I almost got into it with your sister Megan about the prison experiment.
Oh, did you?
I think, yeah, she posted something on Facebook, and I posted a comment about how flawed an experiment it was, and she said something, and then the next day she sent me a message on, like, Facebook. She's like, sorry, I was really high last night. I was like, we didn't actually fight about anything that was meaningful, so I'm sure it's fine.
That's really funny.
It is pretty funny.
But
anyways, those are my stories about Frederick II. I don't have any more up my sleeves because that would be a really shitty magic trick.
like he's a really
Hey,
shitty scientist.
He's a really shitty
like,
scientist.
Hey, do you want to hear more about Frederick? He has more. I have more points.
Oh boy.
I have,
Oh god. Yeah,
points.
I'll trade these over to Megan for future episodes because I did the bad stuff.
I did a bad thing.
I did the stuff
What do
about
you-
him killing kids and prisoners.
So what? Are you saying that he has redeeming qualities?
No.
Because I feel like.
Oh,
He
that's
does
not what
not.
I
I
feel
said.
like
I was just saying that
once
I was
a-
going to pass it off to you. Because, first of all, you do a lot more research than I do.
That's not
Sometimes.
true.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I
Other
think that's true
times-
for all of us.
I mean, realistically, we're all better than each other some days. But, yeah, if Megan has more stories that she wants to dig up, I cannot be arsed to do it.
I mean, maybe I'll see what I can find. I mean, as I've told Zach and Matt, I have my next two stories already written, my
Yep.
friends.
Because she forgot which
So-
story she wrote for tonight.
I
She was like, I don't remember which story I did, so I'm going to write 2 more down. We were like, why don't you just...
Well, I was prepared, and also
Now she's
I
over-prepared.
I can't be asked.
Could not
Can't
be
be-
arsed, as the British would
Could
say.
not be arsed.
All right. I think that does it for me, and by extension, that probably does it for you guys, too.
And, well, now that you guys are done, I'll go into the second half of the podcast. It's just me.
The second half
And
of the
it's gonna-
podcast where I just talk about Ronald Reagan.
where I just talk about hills I will die on.
That was one of my favorite...
That's what the fuck after dark.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that I saw recently actually was a post. Steve's girlfriend posted something about dino nuggies. And one of her friends posted a comment on it that was like, that's definitely a polar bear and I will die on this hill. And I was just like, he makes a good point. I was also ready to
Polar
die
bear
on that hill,
nuggies.
and then it turns out that they weren't all dino nuggies. It was just animal shapes.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right, because
crisis
I saw those
averted.
Dino Nuggies too.
I did have to
Thank
flip
God.
a table in the comments, and then I unflipped it when
Gently
she
put it back.
when she turned out to.
I take that back.
Yeah, I was like, now that that's cleared up, let me set this back on its 4 legs. Anyways, we've been talking a lot, and it's probably time for most of our listeners to go to bed, except for you, who's driving cross country to meet with your family. How spooky would that be if I got that right, huh? Anyways, thanks for joining us, guys. And what the fuck, history?
If you like what you hear from the Triumvirate Productions and What the Fuck History, we encourage you to tell a friend. We don't pay for any ads, so the best way to get us out there is to talk to other people about us. You can find us on Facebook at the Triumvirate Productions, on Twitter at triumvirate_pod, and on Instagram at the_triumvirate_productions.